In the early 12th century, the balance of power in East Asia appeared firmly centered on the Liao Dynasty, which had dominated the region for nearly 200 years. Yet beneath this seemingly stable order, a massive fracture was beginning to form. Deep within the forests of Manchuria, the Jurchen people, long oppressed under Khitan rule, were uniting under the leadership of their chieftain, Wanyan Aguda. In 1115, Aguda proclaimed himself emperor and declared the founding of a new dynasty, the Jin dynasty. This newly born power quickly shattered one Liao army after another and began advancing toward the Central Plains with astonishing momentum. For the Song dynasty, recovering the 16 prefectures of Yanyun had been a national obsession for generations. The 16 prefectures, located just south of the Great Wall, had originally served as the northern defensive shield of China. But in 936, Shi Jingtang, founder of the later Jin dynasty, ceded the entire region to the Khitans in exchange for military support that secured him the imperial throne. The tragedy had begun there. The founding emperors of the Song, Emperor Taizu and Emperor Taisong, launched repeated large-scale northern expeditions in an effort to reclaim the territory. Time after time, however, they were crushed by the formidable cavalry of the Liao. In 1004, a massive Liao army pushed as far south as Shanyuan, near the heartland of the Song Empire. The two great powers stood on the brink of a decisive confrontation. But after a long and bloody war of attrition, both sides chose compromise over endless bloodshed. The result was the Treaty of Chanyuan, under which the Song agreed to pay enormous annual tributes of silver and silk in exchange for peace. More than a century of stability followed. The treaty brought prosperity to the Song dynasty, but it also left an unhealed wound within the imperial court. The loss of the 16 prefectures remained an enduring humiliation. That wound would eventually become the fuse that drew a dangerous new power, the Jin dynasty, into the struggle. Emperor Huizong of Song saw the rapid rise of Jin as an unprecedented opportunity. Yet with the Liao standing between the two states, direct diplomacy was impossible. The Song therefore turned to the sea. In 1120, the Song envoy Ma Zheng crossed the treacherous waters of the Bohai Sea and arrived at the Jin camp. There, the two powers concluded one of the most extraordinary secret alliances in East Asian history, the alliance conducted at sea. Its terms were straightforward. The Jin will attack the Liao homeland from the north, while the Song will attack Yanjing. The 16 prefectures will be returned to the Song, and the Song will transfer to Jin the annual tribute previously paid to the Liao. For both sides, it was an impossible alliance. It was a rare moment in history when the highly civilized Song Empire joined hands with the once tribal Jurchens to destroy their common enemy. The agreed moment for the joint offensive finally arrived. The Jin army swept southward, capturing one Liao stronghold after another with unstoppable speed. The Song campaign, however, unfolded very differently. A force of 150,000 Song soldiers, commanded by the powerful eunuch Tongguan, advanced toward Yanjing. Yet despite their overwhelming numbers, they suffered a humiliating defeat even against the scattered remnants of the collapsing Liao forces. The army was large, but its command structure was incompetent. Morale was abysmal. Neither splendid silk armor nor the empire's advanced weaponry could conceal the military's fundamental weakness. In the end, the Song court was forced into the humiliating position of asking the Jin to capture Yanjing on its behalf. The Jin, by contrast, continued their relentless advance under Aguda's leadership. In 1125, the last Liao emperor, Emperor Tianzuo, was captured by Jin forces. After more than 2 centuries of dominance, the mighty Liao dynasty disappeared from history. But the triumph of the alliance proved remarkably short-lived. According to the alliance conducted at sea, the 16 prefectures were to be returned to the Song. However, after the Song army's disastrous failure to capture Yanjing, the Jin changed their position. Since we captured the city ourselves, we cannot simply hand it over. The agreement was effectively rewritten. Ultimately, the Song managed to recover only part of the territory, and only after paying an enormous price. The annual tribute previously paid to the Liao, 200,000 taels of silver and 300,000 bolts of silk, would now be paid to the Jin instead. In addition, the Song agreed to pay another 1 million strings of cash, known as the substitute Yanjing payment, as compensation for the Jin's capture of Yanjing. Even then, the Jin refused to return the remaining 9 prefectures, including Yunzhou in the western portion of the 16 prefectures. These lands contained some of the most critical passes along the Great Wall and represented the true strategic heart of northern China. By retaining them, the Jin secured permanent gateways through which they could invade Song territory whenever they chose. With the Liao serving as a buffer state now gone, the Jin could finally see the Song dynasty for what it truly was, a nation of immense wealth, but without the military strength to defend it. Having witnessed the shocking incompetence of the Song army firsthand, Jin commanders began to nurture new ambitions. The promise of alliance slowly transformed into the temptation of conquest. The fall of the Liao was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of an even greater tragedy. The sword was now turning toward the very ally that had helped destroy the Liao, the Song dynasty. Yet the northern Song court remained optimistic. They had no idea that the ally they had invited into the game would soon become the force that brought about their own destruction. The rivers froze. The bitter northern winds began sweeping toward the central plains. The Song dynasty's dream of reclaiming its lost homeland was about to be shattered by a storm unlike any it had ever faced.